All right. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another great Lunch and Learn. I'm Alexa Francis House. I'm with the Purchasing Division. And today, this topic is near and dear to my heart. Today, we'll be talking with you about a quick guide to living wage. And with me here today is Jose Hidalgo. You'll see Jose here on your screen. Jose, if you want to go ahead and wave at our audience.
Hi,
And
everyone.
I'm going to go ahead and start off by sharing my screen. Jose and I will actually be tag teaming on today's presentation and giving you guys some insight into living wage. So let me go ahead and share. Okay. And can everyone see my screen? Just want to make sure you can.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I wanted to start off by giving you a brief overview about our presenters. And normally I'm behind the scenes on these, but today you'll see that both Jose and I, our buyers, are here on the screen. Jose Hidalgo is a purchasing manager here in the operations section for the purchasing division. He's a graduate of FIU with a Bachelor of Business Administration and Logistics and Supply Chain Management. And he's also a graduate at Louisiana State University with an MBA in International Business. Jose has been with the county for over a year and a half. And prior to working at the county, Jose worked at Broward College as their senior director for strategic sourcing. Jose has over 8 years of public procurement experience and currently holds a CPPB certification through the UPPC, Universal Public Procurement Certification Council. And shameless plug, if you missed their presentation yesterday, we had a lunch and learn yesterday with UPPC. Feel free to go ahead and check out that video. And then, as I mentioned before, I'm Alexa Francis House. I'm an administrative officer here in the purchasing division. I'm actually a proud FAU alumni. I went there for undergrad and grad and then beyond. So you'll see I have an MBA, graduate certificate in instructional design, and a Bachelor of Arts in multimedia journalism with minors in business admin and sociology. I've worked with purchasing for just past 5 years now. And previous to that, I worked in workforce development for almost 10 years. All right, so enough about us. Jose and I will go off camera, and we really want to get into the nitty gritty of what is living wage. So, Jose?
Thank you, Alexa. Good afternoon, everyone. So I would like to start, what is living wage? Well, living wage is an hourly rate of pay required by the Broward County Living Wage Ordinance for either county service contracts where the average annual contract amount exceeds $100,000 per year, the airport terminal complex or car rental center contracts awarded to concessionaires, and that's regardless of the value, or a contract entered into by airline service providers to perform covered airport services. The hourly rate of pay is determined by whether a covered employer, all service contractors, and all airline service providers offers healthcare benefits or does not offer healthcare benefits at a minimum annually indexed healthcare differential rate. Who does living wage apply to? So living wage applies to all covered employees, which includes each individual employed by a service contractor for a minimum of 20 hours per week, who during the employment is or was involved in providing services pursuant to the service contractor's contract with the county, except where the individual's primary compensation is composed of tips. 2, each individual employed by an airline service provider who, during the employment, is or was involved in providing covered airport services Pursuant to Section 26-101, that means individuals employed by an airline service provider whose primary compensation is composed of tips are not covered employees, except for wheelchair attendants, skycaps, and employees performing porter assistance services, including curbside check-in, as described in Section 26-101. And three, each county employee who is in part-time benefit eligible or full-time benefit eligible position as determined by the county. So what are our covered services? Covered employees must be performing covered services, which includes general covered services and airport covered services. For general covered services, includes food preparation or distribution, security services, routine maintenance services, repair or refinishing services for furniture, fixtures, vehicles, machinery, or equipment, clerical or non-supervisory office work, passenger transportation and automobile parking services, printing and reproduction services, landscaping, lawn or agricultural services. For airport cover services, we include ground handling or ramp services for air carrier, ground equipment provisioning and maintenance for air carrier, maintenance for air carrier, into plane fuel service for air carrier, passenger service for air carrier, porter service for air carrier, janitorial service for air carrier, security service for air carrier, baggage delivery service for air carrier, aircraft cleaning for air carrier, operating private club for air carrier. In terms of living wage healthcare benefits, first, I'd like to mention the difference between the rate offered with or without healthcare is known as healthcare differential. For 2023, that number is $3.65 per hour. And for 2024, it jumps to $3.76 per hour. So per living wage ordinance, in terms of healthcare benefits, it means health insurance coverage which consists of wellness and preventive care, including maternity, and that provides the services described in sections 408.9091, 4, 6, and 7 from the Florida statutes. Covered employer or the county, it's for its employees, must provide healthcare benefits value at least the annually adjusted healthcare differential amount that I just mentioned. If the employer contributes less than the required amount for healthcare benefits, it may comply by paying the employee an additional hourly wage amount equal to the difference of the hourly healthcare benefits contribution. Effective January 1st, 2023, all service contractors shall provide 40 hours of PTO, which is paid time off, to their covered employees on an annual basis through one of two methods, the accrual methods and the lump sum methods. For the accrual methods, 1 hour earned for every 30 hours worked up to 40 hours. And for the lump sum methods, 40 hours provided at the beginning of each 12-month period of employment. The three-language statement has been updated to allow for space to collect the information from the vendors on how they are providing these benefits. And now I will turn it over to Alexa.
All right, thank you, Jose. So Jose has just given you kind of the background information as per living wage ordinance about, what is living wage, what is or who is a covered employer and who is a covered employee. Now we're going to get into some information as far as details on the living wage rates. So what you're seeing on your screen right now is the living wage rates over the years since from 2012 through 2023. And what we've done here is shown you a comparison between in the Tri-County area, you're seeing Broward County, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach County. And Broward has, on average, over the past 5 years, increased the rates by about just under 4%, 3.8%. And this is compared to Miami at 3% and Palm Beach at 2.3%. So we actually have done the highest living wage rate increases in the Tri-County area over the past 5 years. You'll also see there as well that Miami and Palm Beach rates are based on a fiscal year. And fiscal year means October 1st through September 30th, whereas in Broward, we actually do calendar year as of 2010. So prior to that, we're doing fiscal year as well. And then after 2010, we started doing calendar year. So it's not quite apples to apples in terms of the dates, but this is a good starting point or base point for you guys, contract administrators, when you're looking at Broward versus Miami versus Palm Beach, you have an idea of kind of how we line up. And I want to note here as well that you will recall in 2022, the board met to discuss updating the living wage and adding a separate wage rate for security guards, as well as adding paid time off, which required the update of existing contracts, similar to what happened in 2019. So for those years, you'll see, the increase for the base rate is significantly higher. You'll see 7.2% in 2019 and 7% in 2023. So just wanted to give you some background information on the rates. So the current rates for 2023, and we're winding down in 2023. So if you don't know this by now, I don't know. But as I mentioned before, security service officers, the rates are $17.17 per hour with qualifying health benefits. The healthcare differential that Jose mentioned before was $3.65 per hour. Which brings it to $20.82 per hour if an employer does not offer health care benefits. And then all other covered employees, so that's all other covered employees who are not security services officers, the rates were $15 per hour with qualifying health benefits and $18.65 per hour without health care benefits. And I have a note down here that is one of the main questions I get when I do get calls from covered employees asking about the difference between the rates and which rate they're actually supposed to be getting, is that as per section 26-102D, section 6, if a covered employee declines healthcare benefits, the covered employer may pay to the employee the living wage rate with healthcare benefits, as described in section 26-102A, section 2. Which provided that the covered employer provides to the county written proof of the covered employee's declination. So a lot of covered employees may not be understanding the difference between the two rates. And so a covered employer has the opportunity to pay them or can pay them the $15 an hour if they offer healthcare benefits, even if the covered employee decides that they don't want to take it. So just wanted to note that there. And then the rates, we actually just released the rates late last week, I believe. I sent out an email to all of you guys who are contract administrators, to the directors, just basically to all of those who are involved in some way with living wage contracts of the rates for 2024. And those are for security service officers, it's going to be $17.69 per hour with qualifying health benefits. Healthcare differential is $3.76 per hour now. And the rate for security services officers without healthcare benefits is $21.45. For all other covered employees, it's $15.45 per hour with qualifying health benefits and $19.21 per hour without health benefits. And again, the rate without health benefits means that the employer does not offer healthcare benefits, not that the covered employee has decided that they will be declining to receive healthcare. So as per section 26-102F of the living wage ordinance, each year the living wage rates are adjusted by the lowest of the following three percentages. And that is actually how we come up with the numbers that are displayed. So the first is the percent increase in the CPIU, Consumer Price Index, for all urban consumers, for all items for Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach area, so for the Tri-County area, calculated by the U.S. Department of Labor for the period November 1st through October 31st of the previous year. Or 3%, or the percentage across the board compensation increase provided by the county to unrepresented county employees. So the number for 2024 that was approved, I want to say at the October, it was one of the October board meetings, for number 3 was, I believe, 4%. Then there's 3%, and then the percentage increase in the CPIU, I believe, was about 7%. So the lowest of the three was the 3%, and that's what was used to calculate the numbers that you're seeing here on the screen here that are posted for the living wage rates for 2024. So the poster you're seeing is actually already posted on our website on broward.org/purchasing. There is a living wage page that I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with, and that's where you would find a lot of key resources. I'll go over what those resources are later in our presentation, but just wanted to kind of show you that this is how we calculate the numbers each year. So what does this mean for you? So if you are a contract administrator, here are a list of things that you are responsible for as per the living wage ordinance. So before a contract is established, one of the things that you should definitely do is ensure that your covered employer submits a completed and signed written declaration form. And so most of you are familiar with that document, and we can go ahead and pull that up here on the screen. Let me go ahead and do that. See if it'll open for me. And so that written declaration form, just pulling one up here. Dragging it over. So most of you guys are familiar with this document. It was actually updated fairly recently, but it starts off with what the requirements are, and then towards the bottom is the written declaration portion that has space for the employer name, their address, their local contact. So this document needs to be completed, and you want to ensure that the numbers that they're putting in here are in accordance with whatever the numbers are for the living wage poster that we said before, if it's going to be a new contract. So you want to make sure that that information, the covered employer submits it, and that it's completed properly. And then after a contract is established, there are a lot of things that you should be confirming. The first is that the covered employer has posted the latest living wage rate poster in a prominent place in the workplace of any subcontractors. Also, confirm that the covered employer has provided the living wage ordinance 3-language statement to each covered employee in their first paycheck and every 6 months thereafter, and that is required as per ordinance. And third, the covered employer files every 6 months a complete payroll showing all covered employees that work 20 or more hours per week on covered services, unless they're exempted from the reporting requirements. And the ordinance does afford them the ability to apply for a reporting exemption, but there are specific requirements in order for them to qualify for that. Now, this is a screenshot of our living wage page. As I said before, it's under Broward.org purchasing pages and then living wage ordinance. This is basically what it looks like. At the top, you'll see a kind of summary of the ordinance. There is a link to the ordinance specifically on Municode, and as Municode is updated, this link will also be updated as well. Will automatically update the information. So a lot of the questions that we get as it pertains to living wage are outlined very specifically and detailed in the Municode. So anytime you have a living wage question, that really should be the first place that you check. There's also information about the Living Wage Advisory Board. There are actually people that are appointed to serve on Living Wage Advisory Board by our various commissioners. And so information on the advisory board and their meeting minutes are at that link up there. But what is important for you is mainly the ordinance on Municode, the living wage rate poster. A lot of times people want to know what was the previous year aside the current year. So we've actually made sure that we're listing both for you. So we still have 2023 listed. And then we've also uploaded 2024 there as well. The 3-language statement, as I mentioned on the previous slide, that you need to ensure that your covered employer is providing that to their covered employees' first paycheck and every 6 months after. So a link to that statement is there. And then the requirements and declaration form. So those are some key resources on our living wage page. And then last but not least, that application for exemption is there, as we discussed on the previous slide. So if a service contractor is not complying with the living wage requirements, so say you are hearing from covered employees that there are issues, they're not receiving the pay, the wage rate that they're supposed to be receiving, the covered employee can submit their issue to the Broward County Professional Standards or Human Rights section. And so that's the address where they can send something, they can mail something in, or they can give a call to that number that's there on the screen to file a written complaint with the county against the covered employer. And this is key. So that's pretty much a very high level, very quick guide to living wage. If you have any specific living wage questions that we did not cover today, then you can feel free to send an email to our living wage box. It's livingwageprogram@broward.org. And at this time, I'll go ahead and stop presenting. If you guys have any questions that you would like to ask Jose or myself while we're here as it pertains to living wage. I will say if it's specific to a contract, then your best bet is actually to send an email to that mailbox, and then we can get back with you on a one-on-one basis. So do we have any questions? Did we make everyone fall asleep?
Great job, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Mike Mullins asking, why are there different requirements for airports? Well, the ordinance specifies that's honestly how it's set up in the ordinance. The ordinance specifies requirements for airport services different from general covered services. So that's why the requirements in terms of even who is a general covered services and you see that there are specific airports covered services. that's as per ordinance. Any other questions? Okay, well, are we allowed to question a vendor if the number of employees listed on the covered employee list is 1? I need more information on your question when the volume is high. And Connie's responding yes. Thank you, Connie, for chiming in.
So for
No
example,
problem.
hi, this is Enduro Fleet Services. So my question really is to clarify, we have a contract and we know the volume of work that we sent over to the specific vendor is high. When they respond with their living wage, they list 1 employee. Are we allowed to question that? And then if they return with like 3, is that sufficient?
Yeah, quick summary, yes. And that can go with anything from a bid response of, hey, it doesn't line up to what we think the scope of work is happening. They might come back and say, hey, our employees are, XYZ salaried or something along those lines. But yeah, maybe they're just doing the shortest amount work possible for that form. So you can bounce back to them and find out more information on that.
Okay, thank you, Indira. Are there any other questions? And like I said, this is, if this is your first introduction to living wage, it may seem like a lot of information. So go ahead, feel free to process. And then if you have any questions after you've rewatched today's Lunch and Learn, then feel free to send us an email to that living wage mailbox. Thank you guys for joining. Really appreciate you taking your time to learn about living wage. And this is our last Lunch and Learn of 2023. So we will see you back in our Lunch and Learn series in 2024. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.